All right, welcome everyone to True Real Estate Horror Stories. My name is Mike McNamara, your host, and today we have one of my agents from Willow Manor to tell his story, Erik Newkirk. And this story happened before he was on our team, but I'll let him talk a little bit about himself, and then we'll get into the story. So, how long have you been in the business?
I've been doing this 2.5 years.
2.5 years, okay. And this horror story happened during your first year?
It was during my second year, and it was such a long escrow. It actually closed after I joined Willow Manor. It was 7.5 months, I think it was.
So it was a
contract.
7.5 month deal. Okay, perfect. This is going to be fun. All right, so tell us, what is your production level? How many deals do you do?
With Willow Manor, I've since had a brand new baby, 3 months old. I joined when she was a month old. I've closed about 4 deals. But this year I've done a little over 30. I think 66 in my lifetime.
Good for you. So 2.5 years in and you're at 66 transactions.
Correct. That's
awesome. That's unusual for a new agent. It's a good job.
Thank you.
So I'll let you tell the story.
Okay, so I listed a property. It was from a discount listing service called Clever. And I went out to the house. It was a very grumpy old guy. He interviewed a lady and myself.
How old was he?
70s or 80s. He got around in a mobile wheelchair, and there was a neighbor who nobody liked except for Mr. Seller, who would actually help him out of his chair into his hospital bed, change his Depends, the whole works. And he was trying to fix up the house a little bit. There was paint buckets out at the listing appointment and tiles getting ready.
So just so I'm clear, the older guy was the seller?
Correct.
Okay. And then the seller had an aide that was helping him basically survive.
Right, a neighbor.
Okay. And it was a neighbor.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And he was not liked by the other neighbors. That will pop up later on in the story.
Okay. So you were talking about, we had the neighbor that was helping him out.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had the neighbor that was helping him out that the neighbors really didn't like.
Right.
Correct? Okay. And so where does it go from there?
So we go over the comps, and he says, that one's not in my neighborhood, that one's not in my neighborhood. I need $440 because I need $200,000 to go to assisted living till I die.
So he's an unreasonable seller, which is pretty normal in our industry, right? Okay. Yeah. So keep going.
Well, I said you might want to, declutter some of these rooms, maybe get a pod, put it in the driveway. It might cost you $4,000 now, but your sales price be $20,000 higher. Yeah.
If he remodeled his house or put some money into his house, could he have gotten the 440, or was he still pretty unrealistic?
He could have gotten the 440. He didn't have RV parking, and he also did not have the 3-car garage. He had like the tandem 2, but there was comps.
Okay, so if he did the upgrades, he would have been able to probably get that price. But he of course wanted the higher price, plus didn't want to do anything with his property because he was older. Correct?
Right. Well, he couldn't do anything. It was kind of, his wife was back east at an assisted living facility, and she also wasn't on title.
Gotcha. Okay. So what happens?
So we sit on the market. I get several favorites.
Where'd you end up listing at? What price?
440.
440. Okay.
Yeah. We're on the market about 26 days. I had a lot of favorites in the reverse prospecting. We had a couple low balls come through, about 280, And it's a Thursday night, about 9:30 p.m., and he calls, and he was the guy that called me 2 or 3 times a day, so I almost didn't take it, but I'm glad I did, because he said, Erik, I'm on my way to the hospital. I'm dying. 350. And he hung up, so I was guessing that he wanted the price to be $350.
Gotcha.
So that night I lowered it, and by about Tuesday I was sitting on 19 offers. My phone was blowing up, and he was at the ICU at Centennial Hills Hospital.
Gotcha. So you get this call one night, and basically your client's on the way to the hospital and he's dying.
Correct.
Okay. Does he have any heirs? Anybody who takes over the property if he dies?
His wife was not on title. I had her through FaceTime a little bit. She was back east. I had put them in contact with the title manager, who I was closest with at the time to quit claim her on. There were several emails. They tried to get that started, but because of their age, it was just really tough to get her to do anything, DocuSign, any of that. So.
Okay. So he goes to the hospital. Does he die in the hospital, or does he make it through?
He died on Thursday. I was there on either Tuesday or Wednesday as a newbie agent with a 12-page RPA, just trying to get him to sign because.
All right. So you have 19 offers. You have a client that has called you, went to the ICU, and now you're showing up at the hospital trying to get one of these RPAs signed so that you can at least put it into escrow.
Right.
And you can stop getting blown up because you just dropped the price to $350.
Right. It was distracting me from my other deals. I had other listings, other buyers, and the phone was just going
nuts.
Yeah.
And did the hospital let you in?
They didn't, but the neighbor who was helping with the house said he was his son, and they let him in the room. But he said, he was basically a vegetable. There was no way he was going to be able to.
And we know that you can't have him sign a contract if he's not there mentally, right?
Right.
And so, and obviously we can't have the neighbor sign the contract because he doesn't, and the wife, they all don't have rights to the property.
Right. But we did have an amazing offer for $367 as is, no closing costs.
Okay.
And it was near and dear to my heart because it was a conventional offer, owner occupancy, 27-year-old girl. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was your solution around? Obviously, we give them a verbal acceptance and we say, "Hey, we're going to go forward with your offer, but obviously we can't sign the contracts. We need to get, I'm assuming, legal involved, right?"
Exactly. So this. We did tell them that we're going to accept your offer, and it was all just kind of verbal. And after about 10 days, I was getting calls from the agent say, my buyer doesn't see it pending on Zillow. She's starting to be worried. And we legally couldn't do anything like marking it under contract because it was not of a valid contract. But I did contact a probate attorney, and she was going to be the special assessment for the estate.
Okay.
So she was going to be able to facilitate everything because we had tried with the wife, and it was because of her health condition. It was
she couldn't do it either.
Yep. And I asked if they had any kids, and she said they're all useless.
Okay.
Yep. The seller was a senior, so I looked up junior on the tax records, and I tried to
find somebody,
but nothing. Couldn't find anything. So
you contacted a probate attorney because this obviously the estate's going to have to go through probate. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So the one attorney that I contacted was acting as the assessor for the estate, and she assigned another attorney to do the whole trust and the probate and everything.
Gotcha.
But
so did they already have somebody for if the situation happened that you had to turn to, or did you have to find this person?
I had to find the person.
You had to find the person.
Yep.
And then how does that person get the ability to take this over? Is it a verbal with your client, or how does that work?
Well, normally probate requires one hearing, which is always several months out unless it's already scheduled. This one needed 2 hearings. We needed a hearing for the attorney to be the special assessment, and then then we could order the probate court hearing to finalize the sale.
Were you at these hearings?
I was not.
Okay.
I was told I didn't need to be.
Yeah, typically I don't go to those either. I was just curious if you saw how that process went down and what happened.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So this was March. The hearing for if she could be the assessor of the estate was June 2nd.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you had to wait for that hearing. Now you had to wait for that and basically tell the buyer, listen, this property's yours, but this is the process that we have to go down.
Right.
If they still want it, great.
Right.
Okay, so they get through the first hearing, and now they have the ability to, I'm assuming, sign contracts, sign addendums, and do all of that. Is that correct?
Yeah, so they had to rewrite the RPA and get the attorney to sign everything. And
so when they rewrote the RPA, whose name did they write it in? Did they write in whoever was representing?
The estate of the seller, and it was signed as the attorney's name, and then you just do an affidavit of name addendum.
Perfect.
Yep.
Perfect. What happens next?
Then the probate hearing was scheduled for like 6 weeks after that.
6 weeks later.
Yep.
Okay. And now, did you go to the probate hearing, or did you go to that? Just out of curiosity.
I did go to the probate hearing. No one overbid, but about 7 days before, I got a call from Century 21, and I thought it was associated with the buyer's agent, but it was actually a complete different agent with an investor. Said we might be there in court overbidding.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
but they didn't show up.
They didn't.
The ARV wasn't there at 367. You had to put 40-50 grand into the house, and yeah, it wouldn't have.
So now, just for people that are listening, typically if you're representing a seller in a probate, you don't have to go to the court. It's more important that if you're representing the buyer and purchasing a property for a probate, that you have to go to the court, and that's because a cash investor could show up and they're allowed to bid over that price, and then you're allowed to defend your buyer and bid over them. And so there's a bidding process at the court if it happens.
Right.
But in this case, you went just to check it out, see what the process was like.
Yeah.
Good. Did you learn anything when you were there?
I had not too much. I learned that because I was calming the buyer's agent down quite a bit. I had been watching the comps, and if the house was fully remodeled, it would have sold for $450. And we're in a market where closing costs are paid for the buyers. So being that you had to put so much money into it to get it up to par, it just I didn't see any investors going nuts
Going
over
that
it.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yep. Nice. So then what?
So then it should be smooth sailing from there, but the seller had his mortgage with Freedom Mortgage. I don't know if you ever dealt with them.
I have dealt with them.
Yeah, I've had to switch lenders or switch buyers off them to another lender to close. But because the attorney had that special assessment, they needed her to verify something for the payoff, and the escrow officer didn't even get that information for like 10 days from when she first tried to get the payoff. So the busy attorney who works 9 to 5 at a firm had to find time to call the bank, and anyway, it ended up closing like 17 days later than the contract said it was supposed to be.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Is there anything you would have done differently in this transaction? I mean, a lot of this stuff was obviously not at fault to you, but it was just a random series of events. But is there anything you would have done differently?
I would have probably. I first dealt with Freedom Mortgage a little later than that. I would have definitely tried to get that payoff or tried to assist with the attorney being able to verify that a lot sooner.
Yeah, just so you didn't have to wait that additional 10
Right.
days.
Right.
Gotcha. And luckily, you had a buyer that was very interested in the property and willing to wait that time frame.
Right.
Was there any time during the deal that they were wanting to cancel that you had to worry about?
The grass in the front yard died.
Okay.
So she wanted $3,000 taken off the purchase price, which we were able to do. No one
Gotcha.
fought it.
Oh, gotcha. So you just reduced that as
Yeah.
a credit.
Right.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, see, that was a phenomenal learning lesson, a long process.
Right.
And you learned about probate. You learned about different situations when it comes to a seller passing away, or having to deal with an attorney representing an estate. And yeah, I think it's a great story that I think people need to hear. Is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, well, there was a guy who called on the for sale sign, and he wanted to offer $350 cash. And this was after I had already verbally told the other agent that she's highest and best. So I technically didn't have a signed contract, so I could have done the unethical thing since all the sellers were passed away and represented that gentleman on both sides.
Yeah.
But I knew that was the wrong thing to do. I
Yeah,
had
and
already told the other agent.
I think that's good you bring it up, because I think in this business there's a lot of situations where we come into where we have the ability to make more money,
Right.
but it's the wrong thing to do. Right?
Exactly.
And it might not catch up with us at that moment, but in my opinion, karma always comes back around and the word gets out. And so I think it's very respectful and responsible to do the right thing like you did. And I think it's going to pay you back tenfold in the future. So I think that's a very good decision to do.
Thank you.
So that's good. Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you for telling this story. I really appreciate it. Yeah. And I'm sure there's going to be more with the type of production you're doing. So nice work, man.
Just hopefully no more sellers dying in the middle of negotiations.
Let's hope not. I've had a couple of them. So
All right.
Good job, man.
Thanks
for coming on.
Yeah.